Hey everybody, before this week's show starts, I wanted to remind you I have a new video podcast called the Tag Team Talent Podcast. That's the Tag Team Talent Podcast, available on YouTube and Spotify, where I share videos of all the comics you've been listening to all these years. So if you get a chance, check out the Tag Team Talent Podcast right away.
This is another episode of Stand-Up Comedy, your host and MC, celebrating 40-plus years on the fringe of show business. Stories, interviews, and comedy sets from the famous and not so famous. Here's your host and MC, Scott Edwards.
Hey, welcome everybody to another show of the podcast. We have a really good friend of ours, comic magician extraordinaire. Ladies and gentlemen, we're interviewing Ken Garr.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, please.
You know, you always did well with the crowds.
Yeah, thank you. They love me. It's great, especially when they don't see me.
Well, it is true. Unlike some of the stand-up comics, it's a little more challenging interviewing magicians. I've done a couple magicians and ventriloquist because they're a little bit more visual. And it's not like I can say, here's a comedy set from so-and-so because magic is so visual. But in the case of Ken Garr, ladies and gentlemen, one of our oldest friends in the business, worked for us not only as a great stand-up comic magician and escape artist, but you also worked in doing close-up in the magic hat. So for those of you in the audience that haven't heard the term magic hat, for many years above the club, I had a magic bar that I used as a pre- and post-show venue for my audiences, and I love magic and would have different magicians come through and entertain the crowds before and after the shows, and Ken was always one of the best, if not the best. You did some great stuff, but I'm getting ahead of ourselves. Let's explain to the audience how you first came to work for me.
Oh, well, that's, it's funny because I'm trying to think because that's kind of a weird story because I remember one day I was hanging around the house and my wife goes, "You need to get out." This is before I was really working a lot. Just get out of here, go do something. And there was a little local, I lived in Stockton at that time, and there was a little local magic club, a bunch of guys, basically amateurs to get together. And she goes, "Go to that magic meeting thing." I'm like, I don't want to go, and I kind of put it off. And I said, maybe I should just not drive her nuts. I go there, and one of the guys brought up at the very end of the meeting that someone was hiring. He goes, "I think they're hiring at this comedy club up in Sacramento, looking for magicians." And so my ears perked up, work. So I was like, and I called you guys. I guess you'd already auditioned almost I called. It was Jim Jay's Clancy the Clown.
Right.
So I called him. And he goes,
"There's a name from the past, Jim Jay's."
Oh, totally.
Clancy the Clown. To explain to the audience, Clancy was an actual clown that did some magic, and I paid him to work. We had huge lines to get into the club on the weekends, and I paid Clancy to work the line and kind of entertain people with magic. And he was a mime clown. He didn't talk much, but he would do balloon animals and do little magic tricks and entertain the audience as they were waiting in line. So that was Jim Jay's. And so you got a hold of him.
Yeah, I called him. And he was kind of like, "Well, I think they've found everybody they need." And I just was like, I knew I was supposed to work there or something. I just said, "Look, you want me? I'm really good." I just told him. And he kind of sat there for a second. He goes, "Okay, then." So he set up an audition. I think I was the last one to audition for you guys. Set up a little audition. I went down and did some stuff and entertained a couple of your waitresses, and I was in. I think you worked me a couple of days a week. I worked Thursday and Saturday nights initially, I believe. I worked a couple of days a week there doing. Yeah, it was great.
Now, was
great
this?
Fun. Go ahead.
Was this at the Magic Hat?
Yeah, Magic Hat. Yeah, the Magic Hat. And I was impressed. You had little light switches underneath, the little spotlights that hit the tables, and the edge. You had the tables along the two edges and tables down the middle. And you jam in before the show. You know, it was a little more relaxed, and I could do stuff. But after the show, man, the place would get packed out. I'd be jumping from table to table. It was a great training. I mean, I was already doing a lot of good close-up at that point, but I got better doing that a couple days a week for quite a while. I can't remember how long I was there, 5 or 6 years, it seemed like.
Well, it was not only amazing to have somebody of your talent, but you always wowed the crowds. But what's interesting is that you did transition from doing close-up magic in the bar to doing the stage show.
Yeah.
When did that happen?
That was a couple years in, I believe. I always, I used to sit down, and like what was great about working there was I'd go and sit on the steps and watch the comics, so I could watch it. And I couldn't watch everybody. I'd watch a couple, part of each set, and then go upstairs, and start entertaining again. So I had a little break time between shows, and I kept thinking, I'm gonna put together a little act, and I could do this. I saw a couple guys, I bet I could put some stuff together, and it was just in my head. I hadn't really. And you came up one time. Someone got sick. One of the acts wasn't feeling well or something, and can you do anything on stage? And I'm like, sure. Of course, I had no idea what I was going to do. You say, can you do anything? I'm like, oh, of course I can. I'm like, oh, jeez. But I went up, I think I did 10, 15 minutes, and I had a great set. I was killing. People were laughing. I got hooked. I was hooked. And so I started thinking of material, and you started using me off and on, and I don't remember exactly when I opened a show for the first time. I think it was out at the Citrus Heights Club, I believe. It was the little one, the first club you guys had out there. I think that was the first time I actually did a week.
Wow.
Was out there. But,
and what's interesting is that I ended up leaning on you as one of my go-to guys, especially when there was somebody, a last-minute illness bailout, or there was times in the mid to late 80s where I'd have somebody booked, and they would go and do the Tonight Show or something, and boom, they were stars and didn't want to bother with Sacramento, and I would have to fill these spots in pretty short notice. But Ken, you were much more than that, because you were not only one of the magicians in the magic hat, but you were also had the advantage of doing the stage comedy for, like I said, many, many years for the club.
Yeah, it was big fun, man. It was a good training ground. I ended up transitioning, going out and doing more clubs and one-nighters, and it kind of just went from there. Turned into a thing.
Well, we always thought of you as part of the Laughs family, and you were involved in a lot of the growth of the company through those years. But what was interesting that I was not aware of was that we helped you transition from a close-up magician to a stage magician to a traveling comic. So how much road work over let's say the late 80s and 90s had you done?
Oh, I stayed mostly West Coast. I would do these little one-night tours. I did. I know there was. I ended up doing clubs in San Francisco. Also, what was the guy down in LA? LA did stuff in LA. It was mostly California, but I'd go into Arizona, or then I'd fly back to Kansas City occasionally and did stuff there, my hometown. I stayed mostly West Coast. Yeah, I was busy. I was getting busier and busier. I remember when I trained with the club, I forget when Magic Hat stopped being a thing. I was there almost to the end of that, I think. But
sadly, it didn't last forever. It got expensive renting the additional space. The landlords saw this cash cow and kind of kept raising the rent. I had the Magic Hat bar, and then across the hallway, I actually had the Magic Hat magic store.
Yeah, magic shop for a while. I remember that. That's right.
Well,
that's right.
Not that I love magic, huh? But
subtle clues.
But it's interesting. I don't think I realized what a big part of your transition into.
Oh no, you guys are my. I always thought of you as my home club. Like that was my foundation, for going out. I worked at Merlin McFly's in San Francisco through that period of time too. So that was part of my transition too. I was doing close up there. So I was working almost 6 nights a week doing close-up magic for quite a while. So I actually kind of took a cut and pay to go do comedy. To tell you the truth, opening acts didn't make that much money back then.
No, I did. It was like $150 a week or something.
Something like that. Yeah.
$200.
My wife was really pleased that I decided to go into the comedy.
But
good move.
So at the Magic Hat and in McFly's in San Francisco, it was it was all tips, right?
Well, there was an hourly wage. I mean, you paid me, I had a base pay. So even if I didn't make tips, at least I made some money. But, it was good for gigs too. Both of those, I booked gigs just, someone would say, hey, can you come to a party? Or I'd give out a card. So, I mean, I wasn't doing tons of that work, but I would get jobs that way too. But and I had a couple other little restaurants in the San Joaquin Valley. So there was a couple of years there where I was doing 6 and 7 nights a week of close-up magic, and I was making pretty decent dough for the time,
So that made the wife happy. You're making more money and you're never home. That's like the perfect marriage.
Right. Oh, she loved that. Yeah. At first it was like, oh, you're not coming. Yeah. The longer I was out, the better it was. Like,
now you did mention that your hometown is Kansas City. Was it, were they impressed, or how surprised was the family when you went back and you're a professional entertainer?
I think my dad, I never really, they all just kind of saw it coming. Yeah, we figured.
Oh, really?
But my dad was like, I think he was in shock at first because I don't think he thought, that I was going to actually make a living at it. I think he was really super pleased. He never really told me, but my brother said, oh yeah, he's super proud of you, so that you're out doing it and finding a way to make a living doing what you love.
Yeah. So, fathers are that way. They're not always communicative directly on how they feel about
especially
something.
That generation.
Yeah.
So,
oh, well, that's cool that you had that experience. Now, you mentioned that you did do a fair amount of road work, but going back to Laughs, you were there as a magician in the Magic Hat, but when you started doing stage shows, was there anybody in particular you worked with that stood out? Any good stories?
Well, God, there's so many people. I think the first week, one of the best weeks, there's a couple of weeks really. I liked working with Dave Coulier. You booked me with him a few times. We got to be pretty good friends over that period of time, and he actually helped me. He actually throw me jokes and lines and helped me develop like my old straitjacket routine. He only gave me a couple lines for it, but it really was like he kind of plugged in little holes that were existing in my routines. Like, oh, why don't you say this here and put this there? And so I started developing better material just working with him a couple of times.
Wow. We should
great.
Remind the audience, David Coulier, of course, from Full House. And then in more recent years, Fuller House. He also was one of the original hosts for America's Funniest Videos after Bob Saget. Dave Coulier and I were very close. In fact, he was at my bachelor party for my first marriage, and would play football with the girls on the weekends. He was one of our regular acts back in the 80s, but that's really nice. We've talked about in other podcasts the great camaraderie between the comics. And we had mentioned in talking with, I've talked to Larry Wilson already and Andy Gross, that sometimes magicians weren't given the respect in comedy clubs that I did because I was such a fan of magic. But it's great to hear that Coulier and others stepped up to work with you.
Yeah, I would run into that occasionally, but I'll tell you, I found the comedy world a lot more. I think the comics, because I was trying to do original stuff. I tried not to do, a lot of magicians do the same tricks. And I mean, I did some old standards too, but I got, I didn't get respect everywhere I went, but most of the places I did. But I found in the comedy world almost more open than the magic world. Magicians, there was a lot of thievery back then. It's changed now. There's a lot more originality going on now. Thank goodness. I found magicians, the comics were a lot more fun to hang out with, and they were better at coming up with original stuff, and they respected you for doing your own thing. I had a little different approach, but kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing than a lot of guys did, and I think they like that. And I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think you were really good in relating with the audience that way. That what I remember was, first off, you have great bug-out eyes when you want. Not quite Marty Feldman eyes, but pretty damn close. And you always had that kind of. And it's interesting because I'm going to relate to somebody that there's really no relation, no offense, but Penn and Teller. Penn and Teller got famous because they would expose the goofy straight magic that a lot of people were trying to make a living at the time, and sometimes exposed tricks. And it was always a kind of a wink and a nod to the audience that, hey, I'm going to let you in on the secret. And what I liked about your act was that you would say, and I'm going to do something really amazing. And you would give him this look and a wink like, right, like this is really magic, right?
Right.
And I think the audience appreciated the fact Larry Wilson was good at that as well, that, look, if we could really do magic, would we be working here? It's
exactly right.
So right. You, in putting it in a comedy format, you were really good, Ken, at kind of breaking that third wall and bringing the audience in as kind of like part of the joke. You did some really amazing magic. I would say the only person that I saw doing close-up magic that I would have to say was better than you was James Carney. Is that his name?
Oh, John Carney.
John Carney. So
John
sorry.
Carney. Oh, God, he's a legend.
John Carney was probably the best close-up magic I ever experienced. But and we're close friends, as I called him Jim. But John Carney. but next to John, Ken, there was very few that, and we had some of the best. Harry Anderson, Martin Lewis
was there. Martin's great. Yeah, well, there was some wonderful performers. Yeah, John's kind of he's a definite legend. I just saw him recently, and he's got a new show he's doing that's very good. He's a superb artist. So, a lot of magicians look up to him. So he's the real deal.
Well, so I'm trying to give you a compliment that next to him,
thank you.
You were one of the best. And I used to love your patter. And again, for the audience, the patter is the story a magician tells while he's doing a trick to kind of keep it entertaining. It's not just moving cards. There's a story and jokes and that was always the most important part to me, actually, more than the magic almost. So, and I think it is. It's true. And I have really fond memories of you doing, I don't know the name of the trick, where the kings would eat the queens.
Cannibal cards.
Cannibal cards.
Yeah.
Oh, you did that bit so well.
I won a magic contest with that routine years ago. Yeah, that was part of my award-winning routine. So
that's cool.
Yeah. So,
well, I always enjoyed your close-up, and I think that we helped you develop into a pretty decent feature act on stage as a comic magician. Yep. Did you have any... did you get a chance to work with Martin or Harry or meet those guys at the club?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they'd come upstairs and hang out. But, Martin, he worked your club fairly often. He would come up, and so several of them I got to be really good friends with. Martin would come up and hang out, and he was always very complimentary. And, I'd do a certain trick, and he was always like, "No, you do that better than the originator." He'd tell me stuff like that. And so I got pretty tight. Harry, I only met once. He was kind of a big deal already,
he was in Cheers and some other shows, had his own show, in Night Court, but we were lucky enough to work with Harry quite a bit. And but what about the stand-ups? You said Dave Coulier. Was there anybody else that
Dave
stood
Coulier,
out?
Another great week was Paula Poundstone. You booked me. That was a great summer that I worked with her. But we did weeks of shows. I think we did 2 shows a night. And all of them were sold out. And I think we even added a show on Sunday night that was almost full. I think we sold out every show but that very last added show, and that was like 3/4 of the way full. But that was a super fun week, and I got to hang out with her. And we got pretty. We only worked for that 1 week, and she was great fun to work with. So that week stood out in my mind for sure. She was super fun. God, just so many people though. Sometimes I get confused. O'Brien and Valdez were favorites. I was working with those guys.
Yeah. Well, like I mentioned, you were part of the Last Family. So I've told in some of the earlier podcasts that we tried to make their comics road weeks a little less painful, and we used to do things like go bowling. I believe you joined us on a couple of the bowling nights.
Oh yeah, I had some of my best bowling nights in my life hanging out with you guys. I bowled some good games. I'm not that good a bowler, but I remember
that just proves you can bowl good when you're drunk.
That could be. That very much could be. No, I remember I was hanging out. I would go hang out sometimes at the comedy house afterward. And even when I was doing close up, if I was somebody I knew or liked hanging out with, we'd go hang out at the house a little bit, or hang out and go out to the bar across the street or something and hang out. So I got to know a lot of people in that period of time. A lot of comics, well known, not so well known. Great fun times. I miss hanging out with all those guys. Tell you the truth. So
well,
I still stay in touch with a few. But.
And I do as well. And that's one of the great values of doing this podcast. I'm getting a chance to interact with people that, and it's so funny that it's been 20, 30 years in some cases. And we start talking, and it's like I saw him last month. I mean, it's interesting how time evaporates when you reconnect with somebody that you had a shared experience with, which, of course, the comedy world is. Well, Ken, thanks so much for doing this interview. I really appreciate all the years of service and friendship. Service isn't right. Entertainment, friendship. Sorry.
I performed at service.
Well, when you were working the Magic Hat, it meant a lot to me because my love for magic, and it was a big investment doing the Magic nightclub and then the Magic store. And it was people like you that supported these crazy ideas I had and the money I was putting into them. And I don't think I ever made money on those things, but I appreciated that you were there to do it. So, Ken. Okay. We've known each other for a long, long time. We haven't actually had a chance to chat real recently, but you were one of the acts that I continued to book into fundraisers after I sold the club. I consider you one of my oldest friends in the comedy business, and I've always respected your magic and your stage show, but especially the close-up, which always invigorates me. For this podcast, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me. Everybody out there, Ken's still available and working, right? Ken, you're still working?
Yeah. I've been working a lot. Working with Cirque De Bohème, the circus, in the wintertime. I do a winter show out in Sonoma from like the day after Thanksgiving through the month of December. So I'm booked for that again. So I'm kind of the ringmaster of the show.
Oh, that's cool. What's the name of the show?
It's called Cirque De Bohème. It's an actual French-style Christmas circus.
Kind of a Cirque du Soleil tent style.
It's a throwback to the early 1900s, and they used to do a thing. It was all World War I veterans started these things called Christmas circuses, and they would tour all over Paris and France, all over Europe actually. And it was kind of a French tradition at Christmas time. These little circuses would pop up all over. So he actually found a tent. And he puts on this old style, like early 1900s style circus. And it's very fun and very cool. This is my third year being booked for it. So
that's cool. And you're the ringmaster.
I'm kind of the ringmaster. This past year I played, it's kind of a little play throughout. It's kind of like Cirque du Soleil that they have a storyline running through it. First year I played a mad magician, kind of a semi-evil character. And but very fun. And then last year I was the main guy who thought of himself as king, and the story was about Notre Dame and how it was built. But there's circus acts all wrapped around the story, so it was very fun.
Oh, how interesting!
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to come out and visit. Hey, thanks again for taking the time and doing this podcast and catching up. I know we'll be talking and working together again soon. I'm going to try to come out and see you at the Cirque Theater. That sounds like fun in Sonoma, right?
Yeah, Sonoma Cornerstone in Sonoma. Yeah, runs the day after Thanksgiving through December. So, yep.
Oh, that's great. Well, Ken, continued success. I feel honored that we've had a chance to be a part of your early comedy magic career, leading you from stand-up, from close-up to stand-up, stage act to what you're doing these days. I think it's sounds like it's been a fun road, and it's really been a pleasure for us to have you be a part of our path.
My pleasure, and it's been a blast. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Ken. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Stand Up Comedy, your host and MC. For information on the show, merchandise, and our sponsors, or to send comments to Scott, visit our website at www.standupyourhostandmc.com. Look for more episodes soon and enjoy the world of stand-up comedy. Visit a comedy showroom near you.